The moment Nathan Blake saw the figure hunched over his stallion's neck in the driving rain, racing across the open prairie like death itself was chasing her, he knew his life was about to change forever. He had been tracking Thunder, his prized black stallion, for the better part of 3 hours through the downpour that had turned the Nebraska grasslands into a slick, treacherous mess. The horse had broken through a weak section of fence that morning, and Nathan had assumed he would find him grazing contentedly somewhere nearby. Instead, he had discovered fresh tracks heading east at a full gallop, and now, squinting through the rain from atop his mare Sable, he could make out why. The rider was small, clearly a woman from the way her drenched dress clung to her frame, and she was pushing Thunder harder than Nathan would have dared in this weather. But what struck him most was not the audacity of someone stealing his horse. It was the way she rode, leaning low against Thunder's neck, moving with the animal rather than against him, coaxing speed from him with expert precision. Most riders would have been thrown within minutes of mounting the temperamental stallion. This woman rode like she had been born in the saddle. Nathan urged Sable forward, closing the distance between them. The rain hammered down harder, turning the world into shades of gray and brown. Thunder's hooves threw up great clods of mud as he ran, and Nathan could see the woman glancing back over her shoulder every few seconds. She was not just riding. She was fleeing when he finally pulled alongside her, close enough to see her face. Nathan felt his breath catch despite the cold rain streaming down his collar. She was young, perhaps 20 or 21, with dark hair plastered to her skull and eyes that burned with a fierce determination he had rarely seen in anyone, man or woman. Her face was pale but set with resolve, and there was a purple bruise blooming along her left cheekbone. "That is my horse," Nathan shouted over the thunder that rolled across the plains. The woman's eyes widened, but she did not slow. "I will pay you back," she yelled, her voice hoarse but steady. "I swear it, but I cannot stop." "The hell you cannot." Nathan reached for Thunder's reins, but the woman yanked them away, steering the stallion sharply to the left. Thunder responded immediately, veering across the grassland toward a line of cottonwood trees that marked a creek bed. Nathan swore under his breath and followed, impressed despite himself by her handling of the horse. They reached the trees, and the woman finally pulled Thunder to a halt beneath the sparse shelter of the branches. She was breathing hard, her whole body trembling, but when she turned to face Nathan, her chin was raised and her jaw set. "I will not go back," she said, and there was steel in her voice that made Nathan pause before dismounting. "Go back where?" He swung down from Sable, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Up close, he could see more bruises on her arms, and the way she held herself suggested broken or cracked ribs. Someone had hurt her, and badly. "To my uncle's house." She remained mounted, as if ready to bolt again at any moment. "He will kill me if I go back, or worse." Nathan had lived in Nebraska for 15 years, since he was a boy of 10, and he had learned to read people the way he read the sky for weather. This woman was not lying. The fear in her eyes was real, but so was the courage that kept her spine straight despite it. "What is your name?" he asked, gentle now. Katherine Shaw." She studied him warily. "Are you going to make me go back? Because I will fight you if you try. I'm not strong, but I will fight." "I believe you would." Nathan pushed his wet hair back from his face. "I am Nathan Blake. I have a ranch about 6 miles west of Fort Kearney, and no, I am not going to make you go back anywhere you do not want to go." Some of the tension left Katherine's shoulders, but she did not dismount. "Then I will take your horse just a little farther. I need to get to the station. There is a coach that leaves for Denver in the morning. In this weather, that stage is not going anywhere until the rain lets up." Nathan glanced at the sky. And you look like you are about to fall out of that saddle. When did you last eat? Catherine's jaw tightened, and Nathan had his answer. He sighed and untied his saddlebag, pulling out a wrapped bundle of cornbread and dried beef. Here, eat this while we ride back to my ranch. You can rest there, get dry, and I will take you to the stage station myself when the storm passes. Why would you help me? Catherine's voice was thick with suspicion. You do not know me. I stole your horse. You borrowed him, seems like. Nathan offered her the food. And I am helping you because I have sisters back in Virginia, and I would hope someone would do the same for them if they needed it. Now come on. That bruise on your face tells me you have had a hard enough day without adding pneumonia to your troubles. Katherine stared at him for a long moment, then reached down and took the food with shaking hands. If you are lying to me, if you try to take me back to my uncle, I will find a way to hurt you. I promise you that. Duly noted. Nathan swung back up onto Sable. The ranch is due west. Can you follow? Or do you need me to lead? I can follow. Katherine bit into the cornbread like she was starving, which she probably was. Nathan watched her for a moment, noting the way she kept Thunder under perfect control even while eating, then turned Sable west and started riding. The rain continued to fall as they made their way across the prairie. Nathan kept Sable at an easy pace, conscious of Katherine's injuries and exhaustion. Several times he glanced back to make sure she was still with him, and each time he found her watching him with those intense, wary eyes. She trusted him about as far as she could throw Thunder, which was fair enough given what she had clearly been through. His ranch came into view as the afternoon light began to fail. It was a modest spread, a sturdy timber house with a barn, corral, and a few outbuildings. Nathan had built most of it himself over the past 5 years, turning wild prairie into something that felt like home. As they rode up to the barn, his ranch hand Miguel emerged from inside, his weathered face creasing with surprise. "Boss, I thought you went looking for Thunder alone," Miguel said in his accented English, then stopped when he saw Katherine. His eyes took in her condition with the quick assessment of someone who had seen trouble before. "Ah, I see. Miguel, this is Miss Katherine Shaw. She will be staying with us tonight as our guest." Nathan dismounted and handed Sable's reins to the older man. "Could you tend to both horses? I need to get Miss Shaw inside before she catches her death." "Of course." Miguel moved to help Katherine down from Thunder, but she had already slid to the ground on her own, swaying slightly but keeping her feet. Miguel's eyebrows rose. "That is some riding, señorita. Thunder, he does not usually let strangers mount him." "He is a good horse," Katherine said softly, running her hand down Thunder's wet neck. "Thank you for letting me borrow him." "Borrow?" Miguel shot Nathan a look that said they would be talking about this later. "Of course. You go inside now, get warm." Nathan led Katherine to the house, acutely aware of how she kept distance between them, ready to run despite her obvious exhaustion. The main room was warm from the fire he had built that morning before discovering Thunder missing. He lit a few oil lamps against the gathering darkness while Katherine stood dripping on the threshold, looking around like a cornered animal seeking exits. "The washroom is through there," Nathan said, pointing to a door off the main room. "I will find you some dry clothes. They will be too big, but better than staying in that wet dress." "I cannot accept charity," Katherine said, her voice tight. "I have no way to repay you." "Then do not think of it as charity. Think of it as basic human decency." Nathan moved to a trunk in the corner and pulled out one of his shirts and a pair of trousers. "These will have to do. There are towels in the washroom. Take your time." Katherine took the clothes with hesitant hands. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Everyone in Fort Kearney said Nathan Blake was a hard man, a loner who did not suffer fools and kept to himself. Katherine met his eyes. They said you came out here to forget something back east. People say a lot of things. Nathan turned to stoke the fire, giving her privacy to look at him without being watched. Does not make them all true. Now go get dry. I will make us some coffee and heat up the stew from last night. Katherine hesitated a moment longer, then disappeared into the washroom. Nathan let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. The woman was trouble, no question about it. Anyone running from family with bruises like that was bringing a whole world of complications with them. The smart thing would be to give her a meal, a night's sleep, and put her on that stage to Denver in the morning without looking back. But Nathan had not made his living by always doing the smart thing. He had the coffee brewing and the stew warming on the stove when Katherine emerged 20 minutes later. His clothes hung loose on her smaller frame, the shirt sleeves rolled up, and the trousers cinched tight with a rope belt. Her dark hair, no longer plastered to her skull, hung in damp waves to her shoulders. Without the mud and rain obscuring her features, Nathan could see she was beautiful in an unconventional way, all sharp angles and determined expression. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the table. "Food will be ready in a minute." Katherine sat, but she perched on the edge of the chair like she might need to bolt at any second. Her eyes tracked Nathan's movements as he ladled stew into bowls and poured coffee. When he set the food in front of her, she stared at it like she could not quite believe it was real. "Eat," Nathan said gently, taking the seat across from her. "You look like you have not had a proper meal in days." Katherine picked up the spoon with trembling hands and took a small bite. Then another. Then she was eating like someone who had forgotten what it felt like to have enough food, forcing herself to slow down but clearly ravenous. Nathan ate his own meal in silence, giving her time to satisfy her hunger before he asked the questions that needed asking. When Katherine finally pushed back her empty bowl, color had returned to her cheeks and some of the haunted look had left her eyes. She wrapped her hands around the coffee cup and stared into it like she could read her future in the dark liquid. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That is the best meal I have had in a long time. You are welcome." Nathan refilled both their cups. "Do you want to tell me what happened? Why you were running?" Katherine's hands tightened on the cup. "It is not a pleasant story." "I did not figure it was." She was silent for a long moment, and Nathan waited. He had learned patience working with horses and cattle. You could not rush trust. It came in its own time or not at all. "My parents died of cholera 3 years ago," Katherine finally said, her voice flat. "I had no other family except my uncle, Garrett Shaw. He took me in, but he only wanted free labor for his farm outside Fort Kearney. I worked from dawn until dark every day. That alone I could have borne. But 6 months ago he started drinking more, getting meaner. He would hit me for the smallest mistakes." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, letting her continue. 2 weeks ago, a man came to the farm. Samuel Bridger. He owns the saloon in Fort Kearney and half the businesses in town. He saw me and told my uncle he wanted to marry me. Katherine's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I said no. Bridger is 50 years old and cruel. Everyone knows what happened to his first wife. She died falling down the stairs, but there were whispers that he pushed her. I told my uncle I would not marry him." "I take it your uncle did not accept that answer. He beat me and locked me in the cellar for 2 days with no food or water." Katherine's hand unconsciously moved to her ribs. "When he let me out, he said I would marry Bridger in a week, or he would make sure I regretted it. He told me I should be grateful anyone wanted damaged goods like me." Nathan felt rage building in his chest, the kind of cold anger that made men do dangerous things. "So you ran. This morning. My uncle rode into town for supplies, and I saw my chance. I grabbed what little I had and started walking east. I did not get far before it started raining. I saw your horse in a field, and I thought if I could just get to the stage station, I could leave Nebraska and never come back." Katherine finally met his eyes. "I am sorry I took your horse without asking. I was desperate. Desperate people do desperate things." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "But you are safe here, Katherine. I give you my word on that." "How can I trust your word? I do not know you." "You cannot," Nathan admitted. "But what choice do you have? Go back to your uncle and Bridger. Try to make it to the stage station on foot in this weather. Or take a chance that I might be telling the truth about wanting to help you." Katherine studied him for a long moment. "Why do you want to help me? The truth this time?" Nathan considered the question, turning his coffee cup in his hands. "5 years ago, I saw a woman in Virginia being beaten by her husband in the street. I was younger then, headed. I stepped in and pulled him off her. He pulled a knife. We fought and I killed him." The memory still tasted bitter. "I did not mean to kill him. It just happened. The law said it was self-defense, but the man had family, brothers who swore revenge. So I came west to start over. Built this ranch. Made a life." He looked up at Katherine. "That woman I helped, she thanked me afterward. But then she told everyone I had started the fight, that I was the aggressor. I think she was scared of what her husband's brothers would do if she told the truth. I lost everything because I helped her. My home, my family's respect, my whole life back east." "Then why help me?" Katherine asked. "Why risk it again?" "Because despite how that turned out, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Some things are worth the risk." Nathan held her gaze. "And because I see something in you, Katherine Shaw. Courage. Real courage. The kind that matters. Anyone can be brave when things are easy. It takes real strength to keep going when everything is against you." Katherine's eyes grew bright with unshed tears. "No one has ever said anything like that to me before." "Then you have been around the wrong people." Nathan stood and began clearing the dishes. "You can sleep in my room tonight. I will take the settee out here. In the morning, if you still want to go to Denver, I will take you to the stage station. But if you want to stay, even for a while, you are welcome here. I could use help around the ranch and I pay fair wages. You would let me stay, even knowing my uncle and Bridger will come looking for me." "Let them come." Nathan's voice was hard. "This is my land. No man tells me who can and cannot be here." Katherine stood slowly, wincing at the pain in her ribs. She crossed to where Nathan stood at the wash basin and looked up at him. She was small, barely coming to his shoulder, but there was nothing small about the intensity in her eyes. "I will stay," she said. "Not because I have nowhere else to go, though that is true, but because you are the first person in 3 years who has treated me like a human being instead of a burden or a piece of property. I will work hard. I will earn my keep. And I will not bring you trouble if I can help it." "We all bring trouble," Nathan said. "It is how we handle it that matters." That night, Nathan lay on the settee listening to the rain drum against the roof and wondering what he had gotten himself into. Katherine Shaw was going to complicate his life in ways he could not yet imagine. Her uncle would come looking for her, probably with Samuel Bridger in tow. There would be confrontation, possibly violence. Everything Nathan had built here, the peace he had found, might be at risk. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Katherine riding thunder through the rain, her body moving with the horse's rhythm, her face set with determination despite her fear and pain. He saw courage that nobody else had believed she possessed, courage that most of the men he knew would never find in themselves. And he knew, with a certainty that went bone deep, that he had made the right choice. Morning came clear and bright, the storm having blown itself out during the night. Nathan woke to find Miguel already up and working, the smell of coffee filling the house. He rose stiffly from the settee and stretched his back. making a mental note to build a proper guest room if Katherine decided to stay more than a few days. He was setting the table for breakfast when Katherine emerged from the bedroom. She moved carefully, favoring her ribs, but she had braided her hair back and there was determination in her expression. "What needs doing?" she asked without preamble. "You need to rest," Nathan said. "Those ribs need time to heal. I told you I would earn my keep. I am not going to lie around being useless." Katherine crossed her arms. "I can cook, clean, mend clothes, tend a garden, and handle livestock. What needs doing?" Nathan recognized the stubborn set to her jaw. He had seen it yesterday in the rain, and he suspected arguing with her would be as productive as arguing with a fence post. "Can you really handle livestock?" "My father raised horses before he died. I grew up in the saddle." Pride crept into Katherine's voice. "I can ride anything with 4 legs, and I know how to gentle a green broke horse and treat common ailments. I'm not bragging. It is just what I know." "Then you can help Miguel with the horses after breakfast. We have 3 that need work, and Miguel is not as young as he used to be. But you take it easy. I do not want you tearing open anything that is healing. I can handle it." Katherine moved to the stove. "Let me cook breakfast. It is the least I can do." Nathan stepped back and let her work. She moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, finding what she needed without asking, clearly at home with cooking. Within 20 minutes, she had bacon sizzling, eggs scrambling, and biscuits baking in the oven. The smell made Nathan's mouth water. Miguel came in as Katherine was plating the food, his eyes lighting up at the spread. "Ah, señorita, you are a gift from God. Nathan, he is a good man, but his cooking, it is terrible." "I heard that," Nathan said without heat. "I meant for you to hear it." Miguel sat at the table with a grin, then grew more serious as he looked at Katherine. "Boss told me a little about your situation. You should know I will not let anyone hurt you while you are here. This I promise." Katherine's eyes grew bright. "Thank you, both of you. I do not understand why you are being so kind to me, but thank you." "De nada," Miguel smiled. "Now let us eat before this wonderful food gets cold." Breakfast was the most pleasant meal Nathan had eaten in his own house in months. Katherine had a quiet wit that emerged once she felt safer, making dry observations that had both men chuckling. Miguel told stories about breaking horses in Mexico as a young man, and Nathan found himself relaxing in a way he rarely did around people. After breakfast, Miguel took Katherine out to the corral while Nathan rode out to check on his cattle. He spent the morning moving a small herd to better grazing, but his mind kept drifting back to the woman he had left at the ranch. The woman who had stolen his horse, and somehow, in the span of less than a day, made him question the solitary life he had built for himself. When he returned at midday, he found Katherine in the corral with one of the greener horses, a bay mare named Willow who had been giving them trouble. Katherine was working the mare on a long lead, her movements sure and confident despite her injuries. She spoke in a low, soothing voice that Nathan could not quite make out, and Willow was responding, her ears forward and her gait relaxed. Miguel stood at the fence watching, and when Nathan joined him, the older man shook his head in admiration. "That girl, she has magic with horses. I have been working with Willow for weeks, and the mare fights me every time. Katherine spends 1 hour with her and look. Willow is like a different animal." Nathan watched Katherine bring the mare in, saw the way she ran her hands over Willow's neck and flanks, checking for any issues. There was love in the way she touched the horse, real affection and understanding. Most people saw horses as tools, but Katherine saw them as partners. "She can ride anything too," Miguel continued. "I put her on Copper, the gelding we thought we would have to sell because he bucks off everyone. Katherine stayed on him like she was glued to the saddle, made it look easy." She said she grew up with horses. She has a gift. Miguel cut Nathan a sideways look. You are going to let her stay, yes. That is up to her. No, boss, it is up to you. She is scared to hope for too much. I see it in her eyes. She thinks this is temporary, that she will have to leave soon. You need to tell her she can stay as long as she wants. Nathan was saved from answering by Katherine approaching the fence, Willow following her like a devoted dog. Catherine's face was flushed with exertion, and there was dirt on her borrowed clothes, but she looked more alive than she had the night before. Willow is going to be fine, she reported. She just needed someone to take the time to understand what she was afraid of. She will make someone a good horse. You did that in one morning. Nathan could not keep the admiration from his voice. Katherine shrugged, then winced at the movement. I have always been good with animals. They are easier to understand than people. More honest. That is the truth, Miguel agreed. Come, let me show you the tack room. We have saddles that need mending if you know leather work. As Katherine followed Miguel to the barn, Nathan remained at the fence, watching her walk away. He had known this woman for less than a day, but already he could not imagine the ranch without her. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt right in a way he could not explain. The afternoon passed in a rhythm of work that felt natural. Nathan mended fence while Katherine and Miguel worked with the horses. When evening came, Katherine insisted on cooking supper again, producing a stew that was infinitely better than anything Nathan or Miguel had managed to make in the past 5 years. After Miguel left for his cabin down by the creek, Nathan and Katherine sat at the table nursing coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the prairie stretched endlessly beneath a sky full of stars. I want to stay, Katherine said suddenly. If the offer is still good, I want to stay and work here. Nathan felt something warm unfold in his chest. The offer is still good. Stay as long as you want. I will not hide if my uncle comes looking for me. Katherine's voice was steady. I will face him. I just want the chance to build a life first, to have something that is mine before I have to defend it. Fair enough. Nathan hesitated, then asked the question that had been nagging at him all day. Yesterday, when I found you riding thunder in the rain, you were terrified, but you did not give up. You kept going even when I caught you. Where were you planning to go after Denver? Katherine smiled, a small, sad expression. I had not thought that far ahead. I just knew I had to get away. That if I stayed, I would either have to marry Bridger or my uncle would kill me for refusing. Running was the only choice that gave me a chance. That took courage, real courage. I did not feel courageous. I felt terrified. Courage is not the absence of fear, Nathan said. It is being afraid and doing what needs doing anyway. You have more strength in you than you know, Katherine Shaw. Katherine met his eyes, and something passed between them in that moment, some understanding that went beyond words. Nathan felt it like a physical thing, a connection that had not been there before or maybe had always been there and he was only now noticing it. Thank you, Katherine said softly, for seeing that in me. No one else ever has. Then they were fools. That night, Nathan lay on the settee again and stared at the ceiling. In the bedroom, Katherine was sleeping, or at least he hoped she was sleeping. She needed rest to heal, but Nathan found his own sleep elusive, his mind turning over everything that had happened in the past 2 days. He had come to Nebraska to escape trouble, to build a quiet life away from the violence and complications of his past. And now here was Katherine, bringing her own share of complications, her own dangers. The smart thing would still be to put her on that stage to Denver, to protect himself and the life he had built. But Nathan had never been very good at doing the smart thing. 3 days passed in a peaceful routine that felt almost like a dream. Katherine settled into ranch life with an ease that surprised Nathan. She was up before dawn every morning, cooking breakfast and helping with the horses. She had a gift for the work that went beyond simple skill. The animals trusted her in a way they trusted few others. And even Thunder, who only tolerated Nathan, would nuzzle Catherine's pockets looking for treats. In the evenings, after Miguel had gone to his cabin, Nathan and Catherine would sit at the table and talk. She told him about her childhood, about her father teaching her to ride, and her mother teaching her to read from the few books they owned. Nathan told her about Virginia, about his family and the life he had left behind. The conversations came easily, more easily than Nathan had talked to anyone in years. On the fourth morning, trouble arrived. Nathan was in the barn when he heard the sound of multiple horses approaching. He emerged to find 5 men riding up to the house, Samuel Bridger at their head. Bridger was a heavy man in his 50s with a florid face and cold eyes. The men flanking him were his usual crowd, toughs from his saloon who did his dirty work. Catherine had been in the corral working with Willow, but she froze when she saw the riders. Nathan saw fear flash across her face, quickly replaced by determination. She walked to the fence and climbed over, positioning herself between the riders and the house. Nathan strode to her side. "Get behind me." "No," Catherine's voice was steady. "This is my fight." "Katherine Shaw," Bridger called out, not bothering to dismount. "Your uncle is mighty worried about you. You have been gone 4 days. He thinks you might have gotten hurt or lost." "My uncle knows exactly where I am and what I am doing here." Catherine's hands were clenched at her sides. "And I am not going back. Now, that is not your decision to make, girl." Bridger's voice dripped false sympathy. "You are your uncle's responsibility until you marry, and since you are going to be my wife, I have come to take you home so we can make proper arrangements. I am not marrying you." Catherine took a step forward. "I am 21 years old. I can make my own decisions about who I marry, and I will never marry you." Bridger's expression hardened. "You do not have a choice in the matter. Your uncle agreed to the marriage, and what he says goes. Now stop being foolish and get on a horse. We are going back to Fort Kearney." The lady said no. Nathan moved to stand beside Catherine. "I suggest you respect that and ride on out of here." "And who are you?" Bridger turned his cold eyes on Nathan. "Nathan Blake. This is my ranch." "Catherine works for me now." "Works for you." Bridger's smile was ugly. "That what we are calling it. Did not take you for the type to harbor runaway property, Blake." Nathan felt rage flood through him. "She is not property. She is a woman with a right to choose her own life. And I am telling you politely to leave my land. I am not going anywhere without Catherine." Bridger gestured to his men. "Boys, go get her." 2 of Bridger's men dismounted and started toward Catherine. Nathan stepped in front of her, his hand moving to the pistol at his hip. "First man who touches her dies. Your choice." The men hesitated, looking to Bridger. The saloon owner's face had gone purple with anger. "You are making a big mistake, Blake. I own this town. I can make your life very difficult. You do not own me, and you do not own Catherine." Nathan's voice was cold. "Now get off my land before I throw you off. You cannot win this fight." Bridger leaned forward in his saddle. "I will bring the sheriff next time. I will have Catherine dragged back to her uncle and you arrested for harboring a runaway. Then I will buy your land at auction when you cannot pay your taxes from a jail cell." "Try it." Nathan smiled, a dangerous expression. "But know that if you come back here, if you threaten Catherine again, I will put a bullet in you and sleep just fine afterward. That is not a threat. It is a promise." For a long moment, the 2 men stared at each other. Then Bridger spat on the ground and yanked his horse around. "This is not over, Blake. Not by a long shot. Come on, boys." The 5 riders wheeled and galloped back toward Fort Kearney, leaving a cloud of dust in their wake. Nathan stood watching until they disappeared from sight, then turned to Katherine. She was trembling, but her face was set with determination. "I am sorry. I have brought trouble on you just like I feared. I knew there would be trouble." Nathan touched her arm gently. "Are you all right?" I stood up to him. Katherine's voice was full of wonder. I looked Samuel Bridger in the face and told him no, I never thought I would have the courage to do that. "I knew you did." Nathan smiled at her. "I saw it the first moment I laid eyes on you, remember? You have always had courage. You just needed the chance to show it." Katherine looked up at him, and Nathan felt his breath catch. In the 4 days she had been at the ranch, the bruises on her face had started to fade and the haunted look in her eyes had eased. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was strong, resilient. Everything he had never known he was looking for. "Nathan," she said softly, "thank you for standing with me. I know I am putting your ranch at risk. If you want me to leave, I will understand." "I do not want you to leave." The words came out more intensely than Nathan had intended, but he did not take them back. "I want you to stay, Katherine, not just because you are good with horses or because I need the help, but because being here suits you, and because I like having you here." Color rose in Katherine's cheeks. "I like being here, more than I have liked anywhere since my parents died." Miguel emerged from the barn where he had been watching the confrontation from the safety of the shadows. "Boss, that man Bridger, he is dangerous. He will come back, and next time he will bring more men. Let him try." Nathan's jaw was set. "This is my land. I have the legal right to keep anyone off it I choose. And if he tries to force the issue, well, I have dealt with dangerous men before." "There must be something we can do," Katherine said. "Some way to stop this before it gets worse." "Maybe if I went to the sheriff myself, explained the situation." "The sheriff is in Bridger's pocket," Miguel said bluntly. "Everyone knows it. The man owns most of Fort Kearney. He pays the lawmen's salaries." Nathan was silent for a moment, thinking. There might be another way. If Katherine were not under her uncle's authority anymore, Bridger would have no legal claim to force a marriage. "How would that work?" Katherine asked. Nathan hesitated, the idea forming even as he spoke it. "If you were married to someone else, then your husband would have authority, not your uncle, and no one could force you to marry Bridger." Katherine's eyes widened. "Are you suggesting I marry someone just to escape Bridger? That seems like trading one trap for another." "Only if you married someone who would try to control you." Nathan held her gaze. "But if you married someone who respected your right to choose your own path, someone who would protect you but also give you freedom, then it would be a way out." The air between them grew charged. Miguel cleared his throat. "I think I will go check on the cattle in the south pasture. Take my time doing it." He disappeared, leaving Nathan and Katherine alone. Katherine wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold but from the weight of what they were discussing. "Are you offering to marry me?" she asked quietly. "I am offering a solution," Nathan said carefully. "We could marry in name only if you wanted. Give you the legal protection of being my wife, but you would be free to live your own life. You could work the ranch, keep your wages, do as you pleased. And when enough time had passed that Bridger lost interest, we could divorce if you wanted. Or," Nathan took a breath, diving into deep water, "or it could be a real marriage if you wanted that, if we both wanted that." Katherine studied his face. "Why would you do this for me?" "We barely know each other." "I know enough." Nathan reached out and took her hand, the first time he had touched her with anything but accidental contact. Her hand was small in his, work roughened and strong. "I know you are brave and kind. I know you love horses and you cook better than anyone I have ever met. I know you laugh at Miguel's terrible jokes and you sing when you think no one can hear you. I know being around you makes me happier than I have been in 5 years." Tears spilled down Katherine's cheeks. I barely know you, but I feel safe with you in a way I have never felt safe with anyone. When I am working here, I do not feel like a burden or property. I feel like a person, like I matter. You do matter." Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "You matter to me. I am not saying we have to decide anything right now. But think about it. A marriage, real or in name only, would solve the immediate problem of Bridger. Everything else we could figure out as we went." Katherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "If we did this, if we married, I would want it to be real. I would want a chance at a real partnership, a real life together. I know that is fast. I know we have only known each other a few days. But I have spent 3 years living in fear, belonging to my uncle in all but name, having no say in my own life. If I am going to marry, I want it to be for the right reasons. Because I choose it and the man I am marrying chooses me." Nathan's heart was pounding. "Are you saying you choose me?" "I am saying I want to try if you want to try. I do." Nathan pulled her closer slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She did not. "Katherine Shaw, will you marry me, for real, for the chance to build something together?" "Yes." Katherine smiled through her tears. "Yes, I will marry you, Nathan Blake." Nathan cupped her face gently, mindful of the fading bruises. "Can I kiss you, please?" He kissed her softly, carefully, tasting salt from her tears and feeling her hands come up to grip his shirt. It was a gentle kiss, full of promise rather than passion, a beginning rather than a claiming. When they pulled apart, Katherine was smiling. "We are really doing this," she said with wonder in her voice. "We are really doing this." Nathan grinned. "Miguel is going to say I have lost my mind." "Miguel will say you finally found it." They were married 3 days later in a quiet ceremony in Fort Kearny, performed by a circuit judge who happened to be passing through. Miguel stood as witness, along with the judge's wife. Katherine wore a simple dress that Nathan had purchased from the general store, pale blue with white trim. Nathan wore his best shirt and trousers, feeling more nervous than he had since the day he killed that man in Virginia. Samuel Bridger heard about the wedding within an hour. He appeared on the steps of the courthouse as Nathan and Katherine were leaving, his face purple with rage. "This is not legal," he sputtered. "She is promised to me. Her uncle agreed. Her uncle had no right to promise what was not his to give." The judge, a stern man named Bartholomew Reed, looked at Bridger with disdain. "Katherine Shaw is of age and of sound mind. She has the right to marry whom she chooses. The marriage is legal and binding." "This is not over," Bridger hissed at Nathan. "You have made an enemy today, Blake." "I will survive." Nathan took Katherine's hand and led her to the wagon. As they drove out of Fort Kearny, she looked back at the town with an expression of fierce satisfaction. "I am free," she said softly. "For the first time in 3 years, I am truly free. We both are." Nathan squeezed her hand. "Now let us go home." The word home resonated between them as they drove across the prairie toward the ranch. The afternoon sun painted the grasslands gold, and a warm breeze carried the scent of sage and wildflowers. Katherine moved closer to Nathan on the wagon seat, and he put his arm around her shoulders. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," Nathan admitted. "I have no idea how to be a husband. I am probably going to do everything wrong. That makes two of us. I have no idea how to be a wife." Katherine laughed. "We will figure it out together." They reached the ranch as evening fell. Miguel had made himself scarce, taking his horse and riding out to check the herd. Nathan helped Katherine down from the wagon and they stood in front of the house, suddenly awkward with each other. "I can still sleep on the settee," Nathan offered. "If you need more time, we do not have to rush anything." Katherine looked up at him, her eyes clear and certain. "I do not want you to sleep on the settee. We are married, Nathan, truly married. I know it is fast, but I meant what I said." "I want this to be real, so do I." Nathan took both her hands. "But I want you to feel safe. If you need time, we have all the time in the world." "I feel safe with you." Katherine stepped closer. "I have felt safe since that first day when you could have taken me back to my uncle but chose to help me instead. Kiss me, Nathan. Kiss me like you mean it." Nathan did not need to be asked twice. He pulled Katherine close and kissed her with all the feeling that had been building in him since he saw her riding thunder through the rain. She responded with equal passion, her arms wrapping around his neck, her body pressed against his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nathan swept Katherine up in his arms and carried her into the house. She laughed, the sound bright and free, and Nathan felt his heart swell with a happiness he had not known he could feel. That night, they came together as husband and wife, gentle and passionate by turns, learning each other's bodies and hearts. Nathan was careful with her, mindful of her healing ribs and the trauma she had endured. Katherine met him with courage and trust, giving herself to him completely. Afterward, they lay tangled together in Nathan's bed, their bed now, and talked quietly until sleep claimed them both. The next morning, Nathan woke to find Katherine already up and making breakfast. He watched her from the bedroom doorway, marveling at how natural it felt to have her here, to wake up knowing she was his wife. She turned and caught him watching, a smile lighting her face. "Good morning, husband." "Good morning, wife." Nathan crossed to her and kissed her, still getting used to the fact that he could do that now whenever he wanted. "You should have woken me. I could have helped. You looked peaceful. I wanted to let you sleep." Katherine poured him coffee. "Besides, I like cooking. It makes me feel useful." "You are more than useful. You are essential." Nathan pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "I do not know how I managed before you came along." "Badly, according to Miguel." They were laughing when Miguel himself arrived, knocking perfunctorily before entering. He took in the scene, Nathan and Katherine wrapped around each other, and grinned. "So the marriage is real then. Good. I worried you two fools would be too scared to actually act like husband and wife." Miguel sat at the table. "Now, are we going to eat breakfast, or are you going to stand there being disgustingly happy all morning?" "We can do both," Katherine said, laughing as she served the food. The days that followed fell into a new rhythm. Katherine continued to work with the horses, but now she did it as the ranch's owner rather than an employee. She had ideas for improvements, ways to breed better stock and train the horses more effectively. Nathan listened and implemented her suggestions, impressed by her knowledge and vision. At night, they would lie in bed and make plans for the future. Katherine wanted to expand the horse operation, build a real breeding program that would make the Blake Ranch known throughout Nebraska. Nathan wanted to add more land, increase the cattle herd. Together, they dreamed of building something lasting, a legacy they could pass to their children someday. But their peace was not to last. 2 weeks after the wedding, Nathan was in town buying supplies when he overheard a conversation in the general store. Samuel Bridger was telling the sheriff that Nathan Blake had kidnapped Katherine Shaw and forced her into marriage. Bridger was demanding that the sheriff investigate, claiming Katherine was being held against her will. Nathan set down the bag of flour he had been examining and turned to face the two men. "That is a lie, Bridger, and you know it." "Is it?" Bridger's smile was oily. "Strange how a girl runs away from her rightful family and ends up married to the first man who offers her shelter." "Sounds like coercion to me. Katherine married me of her own free will. Judge Reed will testify to that." "Judge Reed is not here anymore," the sheriff said. "He was a thin man named Tom Crawford with a weak chin and weaker spine. And Mr. Bridger has raised some valid concerns. I am going to have to come out to your ranch and talk to Mrs. Blake, make sure she is all right. She is fine. More than fine." Then you will not mind me verifying that. Crawford hooked his thumbs in his belt. I will be out tomorrow morning. Make sure your wife is available to speak with me. Alone. Nathan wanted to argue, but he knew it would only make things worse. Fine, come tomorrow. Katherine will tell you the same thing I am telling you now. She married me because she wanted to, not because I forced her. He finished his shopping in tense silence and drove back to the ranch, his mind churning. Bridger was not going to give up easily. The man was used to getting what he wanted, and Katherine's refusal had wounded his pride. Nathan knew the type. Bridger would keep pushing, keep causing problems, until he either got his way or destroyed Nathan in the attempt. Katherine was in the corral when Nathan arrived, working with a young colt. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. What happened? Nathan told her about the conversation in the general store. Katherine's face paled, but her jaw set with determination. Let them come. I will tell the sheriff the truth. That I married you because I wanted to, because you are a good man and I am falling in love with you. Nathan's heart skipped. You are. I am. Katherine crossed to him and took his hands. I know it is fast. I know we have only known each other a few weeks. But yes, I am falling in love with you. The way you treat me with respect, the way you listen to my ideas, the way you hold me at night like I am precious. How could I not love you? I am falling in love with you too. Nathan pulled her close. Have been since I saw you riding thunder in the rain. I just did not want to rush you. We are already married. I think the time for going slow has passed. Katherine smiled up at him. Whatever happens with Bridger and the sheriff, we will face it together. I am not afraid anymore, not when I have you beside me. The sheriff arrived the next morning as promised, bringing 2 deputies with him. Nathan met them at the door, his face impassive. Sheriff Crawford. You are here to speak with my wife. That is right. Crawford dismounted. Alone, like I said. I am right here. Katherine emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. She had been baking bread and flour dusted her clothes. You wanted to talk to me? Yes, madam. Crawford removed his hat. There have been some concerns raised about the nature of your marriage to Mr. Blake. I need to ask you some questions. Ask away. Katherine crossed her arms. I have nothing to hide. Did Mr. Blake force you to marry him? No, he asked and I said yes. Of my own free will. Were you staying here before the marriage, at Mr. Blake's ranch? I was. He offered me work after I left my uncle's house. And why did you leave your uncle's house? Crawford pulled out a small notebook, pretending to take notes. Because my uncle was beating me and trying to force me to marry Samuel Bridger against my will. Katherine's voice was steady. I have the scars to prove the beatings if you want to see them. Crawford shifted uncomfortably. That is a serious accusation. It is the truth. Ask anyone in Fort Kearney. Ask the women who shop at the general store. They saw the bruises. They just did not care enough to help me. Mr. Bridger says you were promised to him by your uncle. That makes it a legal arrangement. My uncle had no right to promise me to anyone. Katherine took a step forward, and Nathan was struck again by her courage. I am 21 years old. I am not property to be bartered or sold. I chose to marry Nathan Blake because he is a good man who treats me with respect. That is the truth, and I will swear to it before God and anyone else who asks. Crawford looked at his notes, then at Katherine, then at Nathan. You folks seem to have your story straight. It is not a story, Nathan said. It is the truth. Well, I have done my due diligence. Crawford put his notebook away. I will report back to Mr. Bridger that everything seems to be in order here, but I will tell you, Mr. Blake, you have made a powerful enemy. Bridger does not forget things like this. Neither do I, Nathan said coldly. And if Bridger keeps harassing my wife, he will find out just how long my memory can be. The sheriff and his deputies left, and Katherine sagged against Nathan in relief. Do you think that is the end of it? I doubt it. but we bought some time. Nathan held her close. You were incredible. The way you stood up to him. I was terrified the whole time. You did not show it. That is what courage is, remember, being afraid and doing it anyway. Katherine pulled back to look at him. I could do it because you were with me. Knowing you were here, that you believed in me, it gave me strength I did not know I had. You have always had it. You just needed someone to see it. Nathan kissed her forehead. Come on. That bread smells like it is ready to come out of the oven. The weeks that followed were tense. Bridger spread rumors through Fort Kearney, telling anyone who would listen that Nathan Blake had stolen his intended bride. Some people believed him. Others, particularly the women who had seen Katherine's bruises, knew better. The town became divided, with roughly half supporting Nathan and Katherine and half siding with Bridger. Nathan found himself losing business. Ranchers who had previously bought horses from him suddenly went elsewhere. The bank, which Bridger partially owned, started pressing for early payment on Nathan's loan. It was a campaign of slow strangulation, designed to force Nathan to sell the ranch and leave, but Nathan refused to be pushed out. He worked harder, took jobs breaking horses for ranchers in other counties, did whatever was necessary to keep the ranch afloat. Katherine worked beside him every step of the way, her skill with horses becoming known throughout the region. Slowly, their reputation grew and business began to improve. 6 months after their wedding, Katherine realized she was pregnant. She told Nathan one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the prairie gold and crimson. I am with child, she said simply, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat belly. Nathan felt his breath catch. Are you sure? I have missed 2 courses and I have been sick every morning for a week, I am sure. Katherine looked up at him anxiously. Are you happy? Happy? Nathan pulled her into his lap, holding her like she was made of glass. Katherine, I am terrified and thrilled and more grateful than I can express. A baby, our baby. I am scared, Katherine admitted. What if I am not a good mother? What if something goes wrong? You will be an amazing mother. And nothing is going to go wrong because I am going to take care of you every step of the way. Nathan kissed her deeply. We are going to have a family, Katherine, a real family. That night, they lay in bed planning for the baby. They would need to build a cradle, set up a nursery in the 2nd bedroom. Katherine wanted to sew baby clothes, and Nathan promised to buy the finest fabric the general store had to offer. They talked about names, about whether they wanted a boy or a girl, about all the ways their lives were about to change. I hope the baby has your courage, Nathan said, his hand resting on Katherine's belly. I hope the baby has your kindness, Katherine replied, and your strength. Our child is going to be lucky, Nathan said, to have you as a mother. To have us both as parents, Katherine corrected. We are in this together, remember? The news of Katherine's pregnancy spread through Fort Kearney quickly. Most people offered congratulations, but Samuel Bridger's reaction was less positive. He appeared at the ranch one afternoon while Nathan was out checking the herd, confronting Katherine as she hung laundry. So you are breeding for him now, Bridger said, his voice dripping contempt. Guess he wanted to make sure you could not run away again. Katherine turned to face him, her hand instinctively moving to protect her belly. You need to leave, Mr. Bridger. You are not welcome here. I am here to make you an offer. Bridger dismounted and took a step toward her. Leave Blake. Tell everyone he forced you to marry him. Come back to Fort Kearney with me and I will still marry you, even carrying another man's bastard. That is your offer, Katherine laughed, a harsh sound. You really think I would leave the man I love to marry you? A cruel, petty man who cannot accept that he lost. Bridger's face darkened. You are making a mistake. Blake cannot protect you forever. His ranch is failing. Within a year, he will lose everything. Then where will you be? A woman with a baby and no prospects. At least with me, you would have security. I would rather starve than spend one day married to you. Catherine's voice was ice. Now get off our land before I get my husband's rifle and make you leave. You are going to regret this, Bridger hissed. Both of you, I will make sure of it. He rode away, leaving Katherine shaking with anger and fear. When Nathan returned an hour later, she told him everything. His face went dark with rage. He came here while I was gone, threatened you. He made an offer, not a threat, but it amounted to the same thing. Katherine took Nathan's hands. We need to be careful. Bridger is desperate, and desperate men do dangerous things. I will not let him hurt you or our baby. Nathan's voice was fierce. I will kill him first. No, Katherine gripped his hands tightly. We will not win by stooping to his level. We will win by living well, by building our life together, by refusing to let him destroy what we have created. Nathan took a deep breath, forcing his anger down. You are right, but I am installing better locks on all the doors and windows, and you are not to be alone here anymore. If I have to go out, Miguel stays with you. No exceptions. Katherine agreed, and they took precautions. Miguel moved into a room in the main house so he would always be nearby. Nathan purchased a good rifle and taught Katherine how to use it, though she proved to already be a decent shot. They kept the doors locked and were cautious about who they allowed onto the property. The months of Katherine's pregnancy passed in a mixture of joy and vigilance. Her belly grew round with their child, and Nathan found himself constantly amazed by the miracle of it. He would rest his hand on her belly and feel the baby kick. Overcome with love for this tiny person he had not yet met, Katherine bloomed with pregnancy. Despite the morning sickness in the early months, she remained active and strong, continuing to work with the horses almost until her due date. The animals seemed to sense her condition and were gentle around her, even the most spirited ones. In her 7th month, they received unexpected help. A rancher from the next county over, a man named William Torres, who had heard of Katherine's skill with horses, offered Nathan a partnership. Torres wanted to start a breeding program for quality stock horses, and had heard the Blake Ranch had the best horses in the region. The partnership would provide the capital Nathan needed to expand and ensure the ranch's security for years to come. Nathan was suspicious at first, worried it might be some scheme of Bridger's, but Torres proved to be genuine. He had no connection to Bridger and no interest in the politics of Fort Kearney. He simply wanted good horses and knew Katherine could provide them. The partnership saved the Blake Ranch. Suddenly, instead of struggling to pay bills, Nathan found himself with capital to invest. He hired additional hands, built a new barn, and purchased breeding stock. The ranch that had barely been surviving began to thrive. Samuel Bridger, watching his campaign of financial strangulation fail, became increasingly desperate. He tried to buy out Torres, to poison the partnership, but Torres refused to be intimidated. He had served in the army during the Mexican War and was not easily frightened. In Katherine's 8th month, Bridger made his final move. He filed a lawsuit claiming that Nathan had defrauded him by marrying Katherine when she was promised to him. The suit was frivolous, with no legal merit, but it tied Nathan up in court proceedings and legal fees. Judge Reid, the same judge who had performed Nathan and Katherine's marriage ceremony, happened to return to Fort Kearney just as the suit was being heard. He had heard about the harassment the young couple was facing and made a point of presiding over the case himself. The trial was short. Judge Reid listened to Bridger's claims, then called Katherine to testify. She stood before the court, 8 months pregnant and magnificent in her courage, and told her story. She spoke of the beatings, the forced marriage attempt, her desperate flight, and Nathan's kindness. She spoke of the love that had grown between them and the life they were building together. When she finished, there was not a dry eye in the courtroom. Judge Reed dismissed the case immediately and issued a restraining order barring Bridger from coming within 500 yards of Katherine or the Blake Ranch. He also strongly suggested that the sheriff investigate the allegations of abuse Katherine had made against her uncle. Bridger left the courthouse a broken man, his reputation in tatters, his legal maneuvering exposed as harassment. He found himself suddenly shunned by the same people who had supported him. Within a month, he sold his interests in Fort Kearny and left Nebraska entirely. 2 weeks after the trial, Katherine went into labor. It was a warm spring day, the prairie covered in wildflowers. Nathan had been shoeing a horse when Katherine appeared in the barn doorway, her face calm despite the obvious contractions. "It is time," she said simply. Nathan dropped the horse's hoof and ran to her side. Miguel had already gone to fetch the midwife from town, a kind older woman named Rosa Martinez, who had delivered half the babies in Fort Kearny. Nathan helped Katherine into the house and settled her in their bed. "I am scared," Katherine admitted, gripping his hand as another contraction hit. "I am here." Nathan smoothed her hair back from her face. "I am right here and I am not going anywhere." The labor was long and difficult. Katherine suffered through hours of pain with a courage that humbled Nathan. He stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragement, doing whatever Rosa asked of him. Finally, as the sun set and painted the bedroom walls gold, their son was born. Rosa placed the squalling infant in Katherine's arms, and Nathan felt tears stream down his face at the sight. "A boy," Katherine said wonderingly, looking down at their son. "We have a son. He is perfect." Nathan touched the baby's tiny hand, marveling when the infant's fingers wrapped around his. Just like his mother. They named him Daniel Thomas Blake, Daniel after Katherine's father, Thomas after Nathan's. The baby had Katherine's dark hair and Nathan's blue eyes, and from the moment he was born, he had his mother's strength of will. The first year of Daniel's life was the happiest of Nathan's. The ranch thrived under the partnership with Torah's. Katherine, despite the demands of a new baby, continued to work with the horses, often with Daniel strapped to her back. The boy grew strong and healthy, his laughter filling the house. Katherine's Uncle Garrett appeared once 6 months after Daniel's birth, looking to make amends. He claimed he had been wrong, that he had been too hard on Katherine, that he wanted to meet his great-nephew. Nathan was prepared to throw him off the property, but Katherine stopped him. "I will see him," she said, "but only to say goodbye properly." She met Garrett outside, refusing to invite him into their home. Nathan watched from the porch, ready to intervene if needed. The conversation was brief. Katherine told her uncle that she had forgiven him for her own peace of mind, but she wanted nothing to do with him. He was not welcome in her life or her son's life. If he came back, she would have him arrested for trespassing. Garrett left looking older and defeated. Katherine watched him go, then turned to Nathan with clear eyes. "It is over now," she said. "That part of my life is truly over. I am free." Nathan held her close, their son between them. "You have always been free. You just needed to claim it." 2 years after Daniel's birth, Katherine gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Sarah Rose. Then, 2 years after that, another son, James William. The Blake Ranch became known throughout Nebraska, not just for its quality horses, but for the family that ran it. Nathan and Katherine built something rare in the harsh frontier world, a partnership of equals, a marriage of true love and respect. As the years passed, Nathan would sometimes think back to that rainy day when he found Katherine riding thunder across the prairie. He had seen courage in her that nobody else believed she had, But the truth was, Katherine had possessed that courage all along. She had not needed Nathan to give it to her. She had only needed someone to see it, to acknowledge it, to give her the space to let it flourish. And flourish it did. Katherine Blake became known throughout the region as one of the finest horse trainers in Nebraska. Ranchers came from hundreds of miles away to have her work with their animals. She trained their sons, Daniel and James, in the art of horsemanship, passing on the knowledge her father had given her. But more than her skill with horses, Katherine was known for her kindness and courage. She helped other women in difficult situations, offering them work at the ranch when they needed to escape abuse or hardship. The Blake Ranch became a haven for those who needed a fresh start, just as it had been for Katherine. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan and Katherine stood on the porch of their expanded ranch house and watched their 3 children play in the yard. Daniel was 9 now, already showing his father's steady temperament and his mother's way with animals. Sarah was 7, bright and curious, constantly asking questions about everything. James was 5, fearless and full of energy. "You ever regret it?" Nathan asked, pulling Katherine close. "Taking that risk on us?" "Not for a single moment," Katherine leaned into him. "You saved my life, Nathan, not just by giving me shelter that day, but by seeing who I really was, by believing in me when I had stopped believing in myself. You saved mine too." Nathan kissed the top of her head. "I was just existing before you came along, going through the motions. You made me live again." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the prairie. In the distance, thunder grazed in the pasture, now retired from active work but still king of the ranch. The old stallion had carried Katherine to safety all those years ago, and Nathan made sure he would live out his days in comfort. "I love you," Katherine said softly, "more than I can ever express. You are my partner, my best friend, the love of my life. And you are mine." Nathan turned her to face him. "All those years ago, I saw courage in you that nobody else believed you had. But the truth is, you had it all along. You just needed the chance to show the world, and you have shown them, Katherine. Every single day, you show them what real courage looks like." "We show them together," Katherine corrected. "Everything we have built, we built as partners. Your courage matched mine every step of the way." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Daniel called out that it was time to bring the horses in for the night. Nathan and Katherine walked to the barn together, their children trailing behind them, and tended to the animals as a family. It was a simple moment, ordinary in its way, but it represented everything they had fought for and built together. That night, after the children were asleep and the house was quiet, Nathan and Katherine lay in bed talking as they always did before sleep. They spoke of their plans for the ranch, of Daniel's upcoming birthday, of the new foal that would arrive in the spring. They spoke of all the ordinary things that made up a life, but underneath it all was the extraordinary love that had brought them together. "You remember the first thing you said to me?" Nathan asked. "That is my horse," Katherine laughed. "Not the most romantic first words. I knew right then you were going to change my life. I just did not know how much." Nathan pulled her closer. "Best change I ever experienced." "The best change we ever experienced," Katherine corrected again, always insisting on their partnership. "Because we changed each other. We made each other better." Years continued to pass, bringing both joys and sorrows. Miguel, now in his 70s, finally retired, moving into a small house in Fort Kearney to be near his daughter. The Blake children grew into capable, kind adults. Daniel took over much of the horse training operation. Sarah married a young lawyer and moved to Lincoln, though she visited often. James, the adventurous one, joined the army for a time before returning to help run the ranch. Nathan and Katherine grew older together, their hair turning gray, their bodies bearing the marks of hard work and age. But their love never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, deepened by shared experiences and weathered storms. On their 25th wedding anniversary, the whole family gathered at the ranch for a celebration. Their children were there with their own children now. Grandchildren ran through the house that had once been so quiet. Katherine, now in her late 40s, watched the chaos with a contented smile. "Who would have thought," she said to Nathan as they stood together watching their family, "that girl running through the rain on a stolen horse would end up here, surrounded by all this love. I would have thought it." Nathan wrapped his arm around her waist. "From the moment I saw you, I knew you were meant for extraordinary things. Being a wife and mother and horse trainer is not so extraordinary. It is when you do it the way you have done it, with courage and love and unwavering strength." Nathan turned her to face him, looking into the eyes that had captivated him 25 years ago. "You are the most extraordinary person I have ever known, Katherine Blake, and I am the luckiest man alive to call you my wife." Tears filled Katherine's eyes. "I love you. After 25 years, I love you more than I did on our wedding day. And I love you more than words can express." Nathan kissed her, aware of their children and grandchildren watching but not caring. Let them see what real love looked like. Let them know what it meant to build a life with someone you truly cherished. That evening, as the celebration wound down and the family prepared to leave, Daniel pulled Nathan aside. "I want you to know, Father, what you and Mother have built here. It is remarkable. Not just the ranch, though that is impressive, but the life you have created together, the love you share, the way you support each other. That is what I hope to build with my own wife. That is the example you have set for all of us." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Your mother is the remarkable one. I just had the good sense to recognize it. You both are remarkable. You saw her courage when no one else did, and she saw your goodness when you had forgotten it yourself. That is love, Father. Real love." Nathan hugged his son, grateful beyond words for the life he had built, the family he had created with Katherine. It had all started with a woman on a stolen horse, running through the rain. It had all started with seeing courage that no one else believed existed, but that courage had been real. It had always been real, and it had built something beautiful. More years passed. Nathan and Katherine celebrated their 30th anniversary, then their 35th. They slowed down with age but never stopped working. The ranch remained their shared passion, though they now had plenty of help from their children and grandchildren. On a warm summer evening when Nathan was 63 and Katherine 61, they rode out to the prairie together, just the two of them. Thunder had passed years ago, peacefully in his sleep, but they rode two of his descendants, fine horses that carried the bloodline Katherine had worked so hard to develop. They stopped at the spot where Nathan had first caught up to Katherine all those decades ago. The cottonwood trees were larger now, but the creek still burbled along its bed and the prairie still stretched endlessly in all directions. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I had made a different choice that day?" Katherine asked. "If I had not taken Thunder, if I had not run?" "I try not to think about it." Nathan dismounted and helped Katherine down, "because the alternative is too terrible to contemplate. A life without you in it. That is not a life I want to imagine. I wonder sometimes what gave me the courage to do it. To run, to risk everything for the chance at freedom." Katherine leaned against Nathan, both of them looking out over the land they loved. "And I think it was seeing Thunder in that field. He was so beautiful, so free. I wanted that freedom for myself. And taking him, riding him, it was the first time in 3 years I had made a choice purely for myself. And you chose life. You chose freedom. You chose courage. Nathan held her close. That is who you are, Katherine. That is who you have always been. I just had the privilege of seeing it. We saw each other, Katherine said. That is what made it work. You saw my courage and I saw your kindness. We saw each other truly and we built a life on that foundation. They stood in the fading light, two people who had found each other against all odds and built something lasting. The life they had created spread out around them. The ranch, the family, the legacy of courage and love that would continue long after they were gone. Thank you, Katherine said softly. For what? For finding me that day. For not taking me back. For seeing who I really was. Thank you for being brave enough to run. For being brave enough to stay. Nathan kissed her forehead. For being brave enough to love me. As the sun set and painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Nathan and Katherine Blake stood together on the prairie, still in love after more than 3 decades of marriage. They had faced hardship and danger, joy and sorrow, all of it together. They had built a life that was truly extraordinary in its ordinariness, a partnership of equals who had chosen each other every single day. The girl who had ridden a stolen horse through the rain had become a woman of remarkable strength and courage. But that courage had always been there, waiting for someone to see it, to acknowledge it, to give it room to grow. Nathan had been that someone, and in return, Katherine had given him a life of love and purpose that he had never dreamed possible. As they rode back to the ranch in the gathering darkness, their horses walking side by side, Nathan reached over and took Katherine's hand. She squeezed back, and in that simple gesture was everything they had built together: trust, love, partnership, and courage. The house came into view, lights glowing warm in the windows. Their family was inside, 3 generations now calling the Blake Ranch home. It was a legacy built on the courage of one woman and the wisdom of one man who had seen that courage when no one else believed it existed. And as Nathan and Katherine Blake rode home together, as they had done for more than 30 years, they knew that they had built something truly lasting. Not just a ranch or a family, but a love story that would be told for generations to come. A story about courage and kindness, about seeing the best in each other and building a life on that foundation. It was their story, and it was beautiful.